Good afternoon. I'd like to share with you a little bit about a young lady by the name of Allison Wynn. Allison was 8 years old and living in Denver, Colorado, when she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. 8 years old, diagnosed with a tumor right here at the base of her skull. Allison, after the diagnosis, endured 2 years of chemotherapy, treatment, surgeries, and all of the struggles that go along with being treated for cancer. By the time she was 10, her doctors gathered together around her and her family and said, "Congratulations, the tumor is gone." Truly a wonderful, heartwarming story. That's the type of story about cancer that you want to hear. Allison and her family were elated. Her mom said, "Great, now we can go back to living our life." And Allison can go back to being a little girl. So as they started to celebrate, Allison said, "Well, wait a minute. This is wonderful that I'm cured. And when I stop and think about it, part of the reason why I'm still alive is because of my little dog, Coco." Allison had a little Bichon Frise that was by her side every moment of every treatment, of every surgery, every recovery, every moment when she wasn't feeling well. And she realized that that dog truly had an impact because the dog showed unconditional love and caring for her the entire time. Allison had an idea. She said, "Mom, I want to raise some money and I want to buy other dogs for other kids and train them to be companions while these kids are sick. Coco helped me get better, and I know that other dogs would be a benefit to other children." Now, her mom looked at her after these 2 years of grueling treatments and heartache and fears and concerns and worries, and she said, "But Allison," she said, "don't you want to just get on with life?" And she listed all of the things of why she didn't think that that could be done. At the end of that conversation, though, Allison looked at her mom and she said, "But Mom, why not?" And her mom realized that she had to give this little girl a chance to pursue this idea. So that very afternoon, Allison rolled a cart down to the end of the driveway, and she made some homemade dog biscuits, and she made a pitcher of lemonade, and she started selling lemonade and dog biscuits from the end of the driveway. The postman was the first person to buy anything. Over the course of that summer, Allison raised $1,000, and she was able to buy 2 dogs, train them, and give them to other children who were sick. Well, you know how just a little idea starts to grow, right? That idea grew and it grew. And Allison started what she calls the Stinkbug Foundation because she thinks of chemotherapy like a stink bug. It's got to just be wiped out, and cancer. So now Allison is a young woman. She started this Stinkbug Foundation, and she has raised thousands of dollars. And she has donated hundreds of dogs to other children. And she's helping all of these children recover one dog and one child at a time. That, to me, is truly an example of the power of choice, wouldn't you say? The power of choice involves, in my mind, 3 key concepts. The power of choice starts with choosing to choose. Making a choice. Allison had to stop and say, yes, I could get on with my life, but I'm going to choose a different path. I'm going to choose to make a difference. So many of us oftentimes say, I don't have a choice. Life is just taking me where it's meant to take me. Well, you do have a choice. You have to choose first. The second one is the choice of purpose. Allison knew she had a purpose. She was meant to help other kids. The second choice that she made was around the choice of purpose. The third choice was the choice of principle. Allison's core value set, the things she lives her life by, even as a 10-year-old little girl when she started this, was focused on the principle of service. of giving to other people. I am humbled when I think of a 10-year-old already knowing the principles that she wants to live by. That's pretty cool. How many of us here know the principles that we want to live by? Some do. Congratulations. It's wonderful. Many of us go our whole life searching for it. But when we find it, latch onto it. And it all starts with that power of choice. At Speak America, we've come up with the 10 keys to remarkability. Looks like this. If you go to the website, speakamerica.com, you can download a copy of this. It has 10 of them that we truly believe people are meant to live their life by. Truly meant to live the life that is your destiny and how you're supposed to live your life. So if you get an opportunity, I didn't print them out trying to save paper, but speakamerica.com and you can download a copy. What I'd like to touch on today in our short time that we have together really are 3 of the core keys of remarkability. The ones that I'd like to talk about today, as it says in the program, all center around that power of choice. Now, every day when we wake up in the morning, we have a choice, don't we? We have a choice how we're going to greet the day. We have those daily choices. Am I going to get up? Am I going to push the snooze button, right? How quickly am I going to get up? Am I going to shower first, get a cup of coffee? All those little tiny choices. You can't get through a day without them. Well, I suppose you could. You could choose to go back to bed, but that's still making a choice, right? So we have those daily kind of mundane choices. Then we have our bigger, what I call life choices. How we're going to handle a situation. What are we going to do when we're faced with a situation that may be a challenge, that may be an opportunity, that may be something that takes us digging a little deeper into those core principles and core sense of purpose to make the choice? How do we handle that one? I can give you an example of some of these life choices and sometimes how they have a funny way of turning out, I think. 5 years ago, after coming out of treatment myself for cancer and also coming out of a relationship that was very negative, I went to the doctors for my annual checkup. It's very important. Any of you who either have experienced cancer or who know people who have, you have to go in for your yearly checkups and exams and blood tests and all that good stuff. So the doctor said, "Glenna, you're doing great, but you've got to lose 50 pounds. I went, "What? 50 pounds? What do you mean? I don't need to lose 50 pounds. And she looked right at me and she said, "Glenna, do you want to be there to play with your kids? Do you want to be able to keep up your business? Do you want to keep running around and doing all the things that you like to do? For health reasons, you need to lose 50 pounds. And I said, "Sheesh, how am I going to do that, right?" Right then and there, I had a life choice. I could choose to ignore the doctor and continue just doing what I did, or I could choose to make a life choice and make some changes. So that's what I did. I said, okay, I need to make a life choice. So New Year's Day, I made the resolution. Have we all been there? We make our New Year's resolutions, right? Made the resolution to lose the weight. Diet, exercise choices. Diet, exercise choices. Diet, exercise choices. We all know this drill, right? Come about August, I was exhausted from the diet, exercise, and choices, and quite frankly, I was sick of it. I'm like, I'm done with this. I didn't feel that I was making any progress. So all I really want is a big old pizza. I don't want, salads. I was done with them. I said, no, I'll keep going. Just keep being consistent. Well, the joke really was on me, because while I didn't think I was getting anywhere, I was. I was racing to the airport through security, late for a plane, kind of as, anyone with kids, you know how that goes. You're rushing out the door trying to get there on time. Got to security, running through security, lights, bells, whistles going off, beep, 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 beep. My belt was setting off the security. The security officer, the TSA agent says, "Miss Griffin, you need to turn around and go back and take your belt off." Okay, I'm rushing. I'm like, they're holding the plane. I gotta hurry. Tickets in one hand. I run to the other side of the kiosk, grab my belt with the other hand, pull it off. And what do you guess happened? All of a sudden, there was quite the draft on my backside. And I looked down, tickets in one hand, belt in the other, and pants around my ankles. In that moment, I realized two things. One, I had been successful. I hadn't given up on the life choice to become physically fit. And I had lost the weight. I just kept moving my belt in tighter and tighter and hadn't even really realized it. The second thing I realized was that Mom was right once again. Always wear nice underwear. You just never know. One of the keys of remarkability that I want to talk about, is realizing that power of choice. Realizing that you can choose to choose yourself first. We have that power of choice within us. And the most powerful thing you can do is choose yourself first. I had to choose my dedication to the weight loss in order to be there for my children. How many of us put our spiritual lives, our physical lives, our educational lives, our work lives, all of that on hold because we're so busy doing other things and doing things for other people? We truly need to choose ourselves first. That's not a selfish act. You have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And the story with the belt truly is an example of that. We choose ourselves first so that we have more to give to others. Excuse me. Tickle. The second key to remarkability that I think is really powerful is acknowledging and accepting your purpose and your gifts. How many of us have a dream inside of us that we say, that's not something I'm going to do right now, I can't do that right now. And we get so busy making a living that we put making a life on the back burner. Anyone ever experienced that? We get caught up, right? We have to acknowledge that gift that we're all given inside. We are all given a reason to be here. But we get so caught up sometimes in living the lives that we think other people want us to live that we put it on the back burner. Another example that I can give you of that is an example of my son, my 16-year-old. From the time he was little, he tried to do what all the other kids were doing. Tried to be a sports kid. He tried everything. Soccer, he didn't try football. Soccer, baseball, swimming, tennis, golf, you name it, he tried it. And he either had two left feet, or was always in a gangly stage, or just truly didn't enjoy it. He tried and he tried and he tried. And at the same time, this kid has musical gifts like you would not believe. I was the one in high school and actually grammar school all the way through high school that I had to practice the piano every single day, and the teacher would always know if I goofed off because I didn't know the notes, and I would keep practicing and practicing. Anyone else like that in here? And you'd look at the kids who never had to practice and they just play and you go, ugh, that's my son. So for years he tried and tried and tried to be the sports kid, putting his musical abilities to the back burner because that wasn't so cool. Right? Finally one day he said, I'm done. I am done. I can no longer put this sports thing front and center. I'm not going to do it anymore. And he took a step back and he acknowledged his personal gifts for the music. And now he's in a much different place. Now he's kind of the cool kid because he can play anything. All this modern music and everything else, he just sits down and plays it. But he acknowledged and accepted the gifts that he was given, or he has been given. That was a choice. That was a choice. And once he made that choice, he realized life flows effortlessly. When you understand your gifts and you act in accordance with those gifts, life flows effortlessly. It's not so hard anymore. You're not swimming upstream. It's all flowing in the right direction. The third key to remarkability that I really want to talk about excuse me, is to know your intentions. Know your principles. What is it you stand for? Who is the person that you want to be? There's a lovely quote, I think, that says, who you are when no one is looking is who you are. Isn't that true? And that gets back to your principle. Who you are when no one is looking is who you are. If you're speaking up on a stage, you should be the same person as you are in the seat. If you're out doing community service work, you should be the same person as you are at home with your family. Who you are when no one is looking is truly who you are. Allison Wynn knew who she was, and she knew that she wanted to give the gift of service to other people. And that is ultimately what she did. And this gets back to that choice of principle. The choice of principle of who we are. Excuse me. The 7 keys to remarkability outline in much more detail than we have time today to talk about really those choices and the opportunities that we have to live our best lives ever. We truly can make those choices if we think about how we want to make a life and not just a living. There's one more story that I'd like to share with you that a friend told me years ago that just warms my heart. Maybe it's because I grew up in the Midwest, in the States, on a big farm, and I just have a soft spot for the land and the farming community. I can milk a cow, let me tell you, like that. There was a farmer who had spent his entire life farming the family farm. It had been in the farm for generations. His grandfather, his great-grandfather, his father, all farmed the land. It wasn't really a passion of this man, but it was making a living. So he was able to make a living, but he wasn't truly making a life. He always had dreams for other things he wanted to do. But he always felt he was doing the right thing. I need to do this because it's what I do. It's what my family did, and it's what I need to do. One night, just as it was starting to get dark, the neighbors all came knocking on his door. Hurry, hurry, the barn is on fire. Big barn in the middle of the property. Everyone knows what those look like, right? Full of hay and grain and highly flammable materials. The barn was on fire. All the neighbors gathered around, and it was too late to save the barn. They stopped and they looked at it, and they all gathered around the farmer and watched as the sky got dark and as the barn burned to the ground. When the last few embers were still smoldering, the neighbors said to the farmer, "What are you going to do now? Your barn is gone." And he looked at the ashes, and then he looked up at the sky, at the stars, and the bright stars shining above. And he said, "Yes, my barn's burned down, but now I can see the stars." And he realized in that moment that he had a choice. He could choose to go back to making a living, or he could shoot for the stars, and he could start the process of making a life. So how many of you have been faced with, if your barn's burned down, do you see the ashes, or do you see the stars? It's a wonderful opportunity for all of us. So when we stop and think about what we've talked about today, the choice of choice, choose to choose. The choice of purpose. What purpose are you meant to be going after? The choice of principles. Who you are at your very core is what you need to share with others, and your life will flow effortlessly. When we think back to Allison Wynn, and we also think of a wonderful quote, one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said, "I reckon most people are about as happy as they choose to be." Isn't that true? Right? We can choose to be happy. We can choose to make a life. We can choose to make the changes that will direct us on the path to where we're supposed to be. And if you're ever faced with those obstacles and you say, "I can't, I don't want to, it's too hard, I'm not sure, what about?" Think back to Allison Wynn, 10 years old, starting the Stinkbug Foundation with a simple question to her mom: why not? Thank you.